Hi, this is Tim from fititmidlife.com. Today, we're going to take a close-up look at the Reebok Nano X1 versus the Reebok Nano X. We're going to look at these two shoes in great detail, and I'm also going to give you the details of my side-by-side workout evaluation, so stick around. All right, today we've got the Reebok Nano X1 Flex Weave Grit versus the Reebok Nano X. Let's take a look around. All right, so let's talk through a few things here. So this is the Reebok Nano X1 Grit, different than the knit upper. That's really the only difference. And you can see it's kind of sort of like the Nano X. Some very obvious differences right out of the gate though. So talked about this in the first video, but the outsole is definitely wider on the Reebok Nano X and not as wide on the Reebok Nano X1. But as I saw with my measurements and just by feel, I actually don't feel like there's any less actual toe box width in the X1. It's an optical illusion, in my opinion, because the outsole flares out a little bit more. Now, you could argue that, well, this is better for stability side to side. It probably is. I wouldn't argue with that with you. The other thing you can see from the front, look at this nice big tongue. It's got thick padding, little less down below this, but nice thick tongue and very wide. We've got this skinny, wimpy little tongue on the X1, and this is definitely one of the things that I don't like about the new shoe. I think the Flex Weave upper on the Nano looks more sophisticated. It is stretchier too. It has a nicer feel to it. This is stretchy, probably, I don't know, it just feels like it's less stretchy to me. It feels a little less comfortable, and it doesn't look as sophisticated to me. And, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I think the Nano X had a better looking upper as compared here. Now, when I'm standing up in these, I talked about this in my other video, the difference in drop is immediately apparent. Your heel is much flatter on the Reebok Nano X because it's 4 millimeters of heel to toe drop. The Nano X1 is 7 millimeters of heel to toe drop. And that is a difference you can feel. The Nano X1 is also a lighter shoe, and you can feel that when you're picking the shoe up and things like that. The other big difference is both have a tall collar, and they've got this Achilles pad up here. But look at how this goes in an almost straight line. Now, look at the same on the X1. It curves in, and there's Achilles pad there. This is taller, this is a little bit shorter. But because this curves in, it tends to contact, like when you're running especially, you can feel this poking into the back of your heel, whereas you do not get that effect on the Reebok Nano X. So already one person in the comments has told me that's basically the reason they returned the Nano X1, because they didn't like this new, they call this a comfort collar, and they say it gives you a locked-in feeling, which, I guess I kind of agree, but I was happy with what they had on the Nano X. I feel like this is a bit excessive, and I think it's going to be a problem for some people, quite frankly. But that's enough of the on foot. Let's get a close-up look at the upper now. Sound test: Reebok Nano X1, Reebok Nano X. They're both about the same level of sound. All right, so let's jump right into it. Whirlwind tour of the Reebok Nano X1. So this is the 11th version of the Nano. It is the successor to the Reebok Nano X or Nano 10, and X1 is 11, right? And Roman numeral X plus 1 is 11. Big differences. This is 2 ounces lighter than the Nano X. It's using the Float Ride energy system, and for the first time in a long time, it actually has some cushion in the heel, which is, not something the past Nanos have had. Other changes, 7 millimeters of heel to toe drop. So Reebok has done a few things this season. Basically, they're calling this the shoe for fitness. They've taken the focus off of just being a CrossFit shoe and tried to make it something that is better suited for general workout purposes and things like that. So let's kind of talk, though. Forget all that for a moment. So if you're coming from the Nano X, Nano 10, you're going to want to know, like, do I need to get the X1? Is it better? What's different? What's changed? And that's really what we're going to focus on in this video. So first of all, I've covered a lot of the basic differences in a previous video, but we'll kind of go through them here. So basically, let's start with the outsole. The Reebok Nano X, Nano 10 had the meta split features on the outsole. It had a decoupled outsole and midsole. So the idea is that this helps prevent the shock from traveling forward when you heel strike to the rest of your foot. And it's all rubber, very flat, maximum contact area with the gym floor. Does a good job. Not a lot of stack height in these either. You always feel like you're kind of close to the ground, like you're connected to the ground. And it's a reasonably flexible outsole too, so kind of gives you that ninja feel, like you're very well connected to the ground. And definitely a great shoe, the Nano X. The Nano X1 is a little bit different. It's still an all rubber outsole, but it is, it's not using necessarily a decoupled outsole, the split outsole like was on the Nano X. And, quite frankly, I don't really feel like this ever did anything, because they called these runnable, right? The Nano X, Nano 10 was the version of the Nano that was quote unquote runnable. I always hated running in these things for any distance. They just had no cushion in the heel whatsoever. Different situation here in the Nano X1. So while it's true that the decoupled outsole's not here, what they have added is the Float Ride energy system. So that's really more in the midsole, which is the part between your foot and the outsole. And Float Ride energy, according to the marketing, it's up in the front. It's actually up in the forefoot, but that's not really where I feel any difference. It feels the same to me. I really feel the difference in the heel. The heel is definitely, absolutely more cushioned than in the Nano X. And this is a difference you can feel when you're running. It is a difference you can feel when you're lifting. Although I'll put some lifting footage in later on. It's still stable enough to lift heavy in, but it's not as rock solid as the Nano X. Now, is this good or bad? I don't know. It depends. Do you lift a lot, or do you run and do impact activities? Because if you're just lifting weights, you're probably going to want to stick with the Nano X, in my opinion. You can probably find these now. You'll be able to find these on a great discount soon, if not already. If you're doing lifting and running, sprinting, impact activities, you're probably going to want the more cushion in the Reebok Nano X1. It does make a difference you can feel. The other thing with the Nano X1 is this does have 7 millimeters of heel to toe drop. So your heel is up higher than your toes by 7 millimeters, whereas in the Nano X, it is only 4 millimeters. And you can feel this difference, especially when you're wearing them side by side. You can feel the difference. Your foot feels flatter to the ground in the Nano X. This is another thing. Is this good or is this bad? I don't know. It depends. What do you like drop in your shoe? Right? Because the reason they put drop in is it's better for endurance. It's better for long range running. Most running shoes, not most, many running shoes have a 10 millimeter heel to toe drop. So this is closer to like a pure running shoe, especially with the extra cushion. But then again, in cross trainers for CrossFit, we've always valued having a minimal heel to toe drop, right? The Metcon 6, only 4 millimeters. The Noble, 2 millimeters, 4 millimeters. The Under Armour, only 2 millimeters, and so on and so forth. So really, it's going to depend on your preference. Now, I do feel like the drop helps a little bit. I guess it helps in running. I don't run far enough to say, oh, I'm getting the benefit of the extra drop on the endurance. I just don't run that much, and I never will. But I do kind of like a little bit of extra drop in doing squats. So the front squats that I'm doing in the video footage that I'll put in, it does feel a little bit different, a little bit more helpful. So, now, I'll also put some footage in where I'm deadlifting, and for deadlifting, I like a really flat shoe with minimal drop, and in that case, this feels better. The other thing is, in the deadlift, because the deadlift, that's my lift. I don't squat heavy. I never squatted heavy. I certainly don't squat heavy anymore, but I still deadlift. I won't say heavy, but I can still do like a 3-plate deadlift. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that is my heaviest lift. And in the video, you'll see I do a deadlift. I've got one of these on one foot and this on the other. When I'm at the top and I'm pulling the shoulders back, like I can feel my foot sinking into the cushion on the X1 more so than the Nano X. So again, what do? Are you mostly lifting weights? The Nano X is probably going to be your shoe. If you're doing a little more well-rounded stuff, I still think there's value in the X1. And by the way, that's one of those differences where when you've got the two different shoes on, one foot and the other, by the way, with differing amounts of drop, I don't necessarily recommend that. But certainly for testing, it's helpful. But when you have the two different shoes on side by side, that's where you can really feel the difference. Now, when I was deadlifting and I just had two X1s on, the difference wasn't as apparent. And it's not like it felt unstable, like I was not going to be able to lift quite as much or anything like that. That said, if you're deadlifting 400, 500, 600 pounds, you probably don't want to be wearing cross trainers anyways, would be my input there. Other things, the Nano X has that stretchy, really padded, thick tongue. I like this. I really liked it when they put this on the Nano X. And this is not stretchy. It's not anywhere near as padded or anywhere near as thick. Quite frankly, it feels like a wimpy little tongue. So I feel like they've gone backwards as far as the tongue goes compared to what was in the X. I like this better. I thought this worked better. Although I will say, with the weird kind of angle on this and where the bolster kind of cuts out, what I'm talking about, there's this pillow-like part. You see how it ends right there? If you tighten too much, you'd kind of get the laces biting in, so you had to not tighten it too much. It almost feels like they should have had this run at least twice as far down the shoe, but oh well, they didn't do that. And they've done away with the bolster, not entirely, but there's just not as much cushioning to the tongue on the X1. Now the other thing, and I alluded to this or spoke about this in the on foot. Look at the shapes of the heel. So you see the curve. You see how this curves inward. Now look at what they did on the X. It's straight up. It's got the tall collar, and you could see there, it's taller. They've got the Achilles pad, but it's straight up. Now, already, I can feel when I run, especially this, then because it's curved over, this is kind of poking into the back of my ankle, especially when running. I did not and do not get that sensation in the X because it's straight up like that. And again, I've already had one person in the comments tell me, that's the reason I got rid of the shoes, because I feel like it's poking me in the back of the ankle. Now, they call this the comfort collar, and they say it gives you a locked-in feeling. And I love a tall collar on a shoe. It's got a nice firm heel cup in here as well. Comes up nice and high. It's got this TPU piece on the side. I do consider that to be an improvement over the X was much less supportive side to side. Those are my preliminary thoughts, right? That's one of those things I look at it, I feel it, and I go, ooh, that seems better. Now, I can't give you any hard numbers to prove that it's better or anything like that. So I feel like that's an improvement, but I feel like the difference in the heels, that curve versus the straight, that's going to be a problem for some people. So, buyer beware. The other thing is, let's zoom in here. I don't feel like this is the Flex Weave Grit upper, by the way. So this is not the knit, but rather the grit. And you can see it's quite a bit different than what's in the X. So we'll focus in on the X for a moment. This was stretchy, it's double layer, it's very tough, and this is comfortable. But not only all that, I think this looks really good. It looks sophisticated to me. And if you look at what's on the X1, it just looks, it's plainer. I guess it's tough. It's pretty tough. It's a little bit stretchy. It feels like it's slightly less stretchy than the X, but it just doesn't look as sophisticated to me. So I'm a little bummed out about that, because I was really jazzed when they did the new upper on the X. So anyways, I know for some people don't care, but hey, if I'm going to spend $130 on shoes, they ought to look good, right? They ought to look real good. So those are primarily the differences between the two shoes. Almost forgot to talk about weight. The Nano X is a heavyweight shoe. These are over 14 ounces. So I have several of these, by the way, but some of them weigh 14 ounces and some of them weigh as much as 14.4 ounces. I have no idea why there's a difference. But heavy shoe, because there's a lot to it, right? It's got this rubber protection wrap. It's got all these different materials in the upper. It's got the bigger tongue, and it's not a small shoe, right? It's very tall, it's very wide, and it's got a lot of heavy rubber in the outsole. So somewhere just slightly over 14 ounces. The X1, in contrast, this is just slightly over 12 ounces. So 12.1, 12.2, 12.0. I now have multiple pairs of these, and there's some slight differences. But 2 ounces, it's a difference you can feel just when you pick them up. But also, I feel like if you're going to use a shoe for athletics, for training, generally you want lighter rather than heavier. So I am pleased with the fact that they found a way to make the X1 lighter. Now, the flip side of that is, will it be as tough? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I feel like this upper is going to fare pretty well. I think it'll be fine. And I don't know. I certainly don't need like all this around the side in the back and things like that. Like I just don't put that kind of stress on the shoe like maybe other people do. I mean, if you're a CrossFit athlete, if you're in the games, you're climbing ropes and you're doing all that stuff, it probably makes you're probably training like 5 or 6 hours a day too. I certainly don't do that. Probably makes a difference there. But for me, something like this is a little more practical. It's going to be a better choice. Let's talk about Rope Pro while we're here. So Rope Pro, you can see the name there on the heel, Rope Pro. So the Rope Pro section on the X is kind of this little wraparound area, and then, beyond that, there's not really that much to it. So what they've given you in the X1, it's a little more, it's got like an edge to it, and this is really firm. Like you could kind of pinch the rope with the inside of the shoe here, and then this is TPU. So it's really slick and smooth and tough. This is super tough. A rope would not cause any problems for this. Plus, the upper's a bit tougher. So I do feel like, I feel quite frankly like this is the right amount of rope anything for the average fitness person, right? Remember, this isn't a CrossFit shoe anymore. It's more a general purpose fitness shoe. So people don't want a big, giant, heavy rope wrap that they're not going to use. Let's take a look at the heels, and you can see the Achilles pad is just slightly higher on the X, but again, the real difference is this is straight up and this one curves over, which may hit you in the back of the ankle. All right, so that was Reebok Nano X versus the Reebok Nano X1. The differences are several with these two versions of the shoe. So the X1 is lighter with more drop and more cushion. Probably overall, this is better suited to impact activities in light running and jogging and things like that. That said, it's not running shoe levels of cushion, so I wouldn't put these on just to go out running, but these would be good for an overall mixed workout where you're doing a bunch of different things. I feel like the X is the better heavy weightlifting shoe, the heavy barbell shoe. Built like a tank, but it's got minimal drop and minimal cushion. It just feels more stable in the heel and more stable in the midfoot as well because of the less cushion. However, these are not much fun to run in my opinion. So hopefully that helps. Remember that the heels are shaped radically different. Best thing is if you can try these on if you're interested in them and confirm that the fit and feel is going to work for you. So if you found this helpful, please like, please subscribe. We post new shoe reviews regularly. Thank you. Have a good day.